Since the fall of the Assad regime, Turkey is making moves to increase its presence in Syria. Analysts believe it's part of Erdogan's vision to revive the Ottoman Empire. His ambitions could mean trouble for Israel. CBN Middle East correspondent Julia Stahl reports.
The concern is Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan may have aspirations that are even greater than Iran's.
If we are talking about the influence in Syria, he already took the place of Russia and Iran. But I think given the Ottoman glorious past, I think his ambitions are far more bigger than Iran's.
Born and raised in Turkey, Eytan Cohen Yanarocak monitors its actions for the Moshe Dayan Center as well as the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. He tells CBN News one shouldn't underestimate Erdogan when he insists the borders of Turkey are larger than they are now.
We do see the boundaries of the Ottoman Empire. So as much as Belgrade, he is talking about Jerusalem. As much as Athens, he is talking about other cities like Cairo and other cities inside the Middle East. So I don't think that it is limited within the boundaries of the Middle East.
The Ottoman Empire, also known as the Turkish Empire, began more than 700 years ago, eventually controlling Southeast Europe as well as parts of West Asia, North Africa, and the Middle East up to the early 20th century. After World War I, the Allied powers partitioned the Ottoman Empire, including what became known as Palestine. Yanarocak says December's fall of Syrian President Bashar Assad opened the door for Erdogan to implement his goal of reviving an empire, beginning with Syria.
We all witnessed that since the beginning of the Syrian civil war. The Turkish president provided everything he has to the Syrian opposition. And he is turning the current Syrian administration as his core ally by providing some civilian services like paving the roads, paving railways, providing radars, and repairing airports and other facilities. Turkey is creating here a very important dependency from the Syrian side.
Yanarocak adds Turkey is the only country declaring an intention to build up the new Syrian army, while the U.S. has demanded that it destroys its chemical weapons and renounce terrorism. On paper, Israel and Turkey have shared diplomatic relations since 1949, although Erdogan's moves could put that at risk.
The Turkish president, at the end of the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, he unfortunately wished for the destruction of Israel, especially after October the 7th. We cannot tolerate some, future threats.
Since the Assad regime fell, Israel has bombed weapons stockpiles and strategic military locations while establishing a buffer zone along its border with Syria. Israel is concerned both with those who control Syria and Turkey's involvement.
They are already building governmental facilities to sort of show a type of sovereignty in the Syrian land as well. You see Turkey building post offices, banks, Turkish banks who are using Turkish currency, schools.
Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell tells CBN News Israel has two priorities regarding Syria: the safety of Israel and the protection of minorities, including the Christians, Druze, and Kurds. Then there's the outlier.
Turkey is a great concern in what is happening in Syria now. Not just that, we need to hear their declarations and their speeches of their leadership. And that's really concerning, in particularly statements and discourse in regards to Jerusalem. These are declarations who are a red line in regards to Israel, but it shows their intention.
Haskell adds that intention goes beyond Israel.
After what had happened in Syria, they feel like they're on a high horse. But that should be a great concern to all the neighboring countries around.
President Trump recently offered to smooth out any difficulties between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Erdogan.
Any problem that you have with Turkey, I think I can solve. As long as you're reasonable. You have to be reasonable.
Yanarocak says it's also the first time the U.S. could have access to Syria, which used to be under Russia's thumb, and is now being influenced by Turkey, a NATO member.
Now Donald Trump has the opportunity to penetrate into Syria and maybe to play a role for its reconstruction. You know, the name of the game here is money. And since we are talking about the US president and he's a very successful businessman, I believe that the last thing that the American president is looking for in Syria is friction between the state of Israel and Turkey.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
You have to go back 107 years. That's with the end of World War I. And Turkey joined with Germany. A lot of history is lost in this 100-year time period, but at that point in time, it was called the Ottoman Empire, and it was enormous, and for hundreds of years was the dominant power in the Mediterranean. And they dream of reacquiring that same power. It's famous. Winston Churchill, who was Secretary of the Admiralty in the British cabinet, he literally did it on a napkin. He drew out a map of the Middle East, and Syria and Lebanon went to France, and then you know, Egypt was, okay, you're going to be your own country, but the Brits are going to have a lot of influence over you. And then the Kingdom of Jordan was established. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was established. And then the British mandate over Palestine to create a Palestinian state and create a Jewish state. All of that happened with the great powers making moves, literally drawing things out on a napkin. So in a power vacuum where Syria overthrows its government, the government was absolutely horrible, but there was no organization in place. In that power vacuum, can we expect Turkey to flex its muscle and try to take back territory that they think is theirs? They think Syria is an invented country, and it should be part of the Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Will they have that same influence on Lebanon? Possibly. We'll see. But clearly the goal of Erdogan is to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. He wants to cement his place in history. And this is, for him, the view to do that. If you're in Israel, watch out. If you're in Jordan, watch out. And especially if you're in Lebanon. This is an ego that's not going to be easily contained.